Hey, what's going on? This is Mauli Vodi with financiallypresent.com, your one-stop shop for financial and investment education. And today we're going to break down CharlesSchwab.com, but specifically the research page. So we're going to talk a little bit about whether you're researching US markets or international markets or watch lists and setting these things up. This will be a very helpful tool for you, especially if you're like me and your accounts just moved over from TD Ameritrade to Charles Schwab. So let's begin. Okay, so here we are on the CharlesSchwab.com research tab. So if you're looking for other explanations, those are going to be found in other videos where I go over the accounts, the trade, how to move money, the products, and all the other tabs here. But for today, we're going over the research tab specifically. So it starts from a broad perspective. You can start with US markets. And what I love about it is everything is up front and center. If you are a previous Schwab client, then you're probably more familiar with the classic view. I've looked at it and I didn't care for that as much. This is much better. So if you're a TD Ameritrade client that's recently migrated, get familiar with this one. It's technically in beta, but it's a better version of it. You'll see some of the major markets and the major indexes directly up front. So as you would with any other site. What I do like is it has market reports from Morningstar, very reputable. And there's Argus as well. Then if you want to look more at the sector perspective, you have 1 day, 5 day, 30 day, and 1 year. So we know which sectors or industries are leading and pulling the indexes down. Scroll a little bit further, you'll see the breaking news or headlines for the day, followed by the calendar. So I like this because for me, TD Ameritrade wasn't as readily available. So, but for here, it's right here. So I used to go to Market Watch and get the calendar because it was just more convenient for me. But you can zero in on stocks that are, have been upgraded or downgraded by specific rating agencies, and you'd see what those are up front. If you go back, earnings, you can zero in on the earnings calendar. See companies that release their earnings before the market opened, and then companies that will release their earnings after market close. All right, we'll go back. We'll come back to that calendar as well. Dividends, same there. It gives us the calendar showing us the dividend amounts, when they're gonna pay out, when they traded without the dividend or the ex-dividend date, and so on. Top mentions for the news, which is great to have. Futures, markets, video commentary, and then company movers. You see this in many other places as well, or other sites. But whether it's, and we call it the gainers or the losers, basically. Stocks are up really high, they're hitting their 52-week high or low. You can also filter it by the exchanges or by sector as well. Let's move over to international markets. So what I found interesting is that the international markets section is really just this main tab here for the overview, followed by these 3 tabs here: regions and countries, country profiles, and then understanding international investing. Okay, so the S&P is just, when we look at it for specific companies, just think of it as some of their benchmark companies for that country. Just like how we have our S&P 500, when you're looking at S&P UK or S&P Japan or S&P Brazil, we're not necessarily talking about 500 companies, but we're just talking about that index, the premier companies within that country. So if you were to click industries, it would jump back to the US markets and it will list out the industries. So you can look at Morningstar reports across the 11 major sectors. And then we're looking at the entire market here, and they will show you how many companies and then how many are rated in each of these specific sectors. So feel free to dive deeper into those. Charts. So if you're into technical analysis, this is your spot. You can go ahead and put in a specific stock symbol. Let's say, for example, let's go with Johnson & Johnson. JNJ is their symbol. This is not a recommendation, it's just an example. Now I'll see a more specific chart related to Johnson & Johnson. And this is where you can go as far back as you need to or narrow it down to one day and do minute charts. And then you're able to actually draw your trend lines, or you can leave markers here. Decide if you want to draw a trend line, you can do that there. If you need to save the charts, you can easily do that there as well. Additional information on the company itself, summary, news, ratings, earnings, statements, peers, ratios, dividends, reports, options, and then preferreds. All right, so what you're seeing now too is it actually is pushing you back to more of the classic view of Charles Schwab. If we click the research or redesign, it's just going to take us to what I showed you before. Now jumping to research tools. This is mainly comprised of stock screeners or just screeners in general. Okay, so if we were to look at the stock screener, for example, this is where you could sift through the whole stock market and narrow down according to your own preferences. So if you wanted to find a stock based on its specific price range, you can filter it as such. It's going to look through the whole market and sift through it. If you want to find a stock that's between $20 to $40 per share, it's paying out a dividend, or it has an upcoming dividend, for example, in the next 30 days. It has an analyst rating. Let's say we can go with Morningstar. A Morningstar rating of 5 stars and up. It says nothing. Okay, so we can change it and let's see. 4 stars and up. Then let's see the 5 matches. And this is just a quick example of using the stock screener. The stock screener is now a common tool in most brokerage firms. I do like how clear this one is and how it looks, but then it looks like they also have some of their own predefined screeners that you can use. We'll go back to research tools, stock screener, predefined screens. So Schwab has its ratings right there, top analyst ratings. So these are good ones to use as an example or something to start with, and then you can kind of tweak it on your own. So let's just take a look at top analyst rankings or ratings. And it gives you a list. Right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of S&P 500 companies. Okay, so you can always use that and tweak it for your own liking. Back to research tools, there's a preferred stock screener. So these screeners are a little bit more simplistic because there's not as many preferred stock as there are common stock. So as you can see, the selection here is more reduced. Back to research tools, stock comparison. I actually like this one because you can compare up to 5 stocks at once. They have a button where you can just populate the competitors. So let's say I want to put in a company like Johnson & Johnson. Again, for example, populate competitors. Without me having to think, it automatically pulled up some top competitors. And now I have them here in chart form. And then I can keep going, side-by-side comparison with summary, fundamentals, valuation, Schwab's viewpoint. So this is more proprietary to Charles Schwab. You won't find that elsewhere, or if you do, they'll call it something else. And then other ratings. These are from the professional rating companies as well. Annual growth, and so on. You can also do an index comparison. They'll look at Schwab and compare it to the health index that it's tied to, or that it rolls into. Then compare it to the S&P 500. And then you can add additional indexes that you want to compare it to. Okay, so now we're kind of getting in the weeds with some research, but the research tools that's what it's for. Now the Schwab stock list. So this is a proprietary list as well. So in order to understand a little bit more about this, you can always click on here, learn more about Schwab stock list. But basically what they're doing is they're scraping through 3,000 stocks, and they have a certain level of criteria that they are sifting through to present this list of stocks. So 67 matching stocks that fall into the criteria that they've selected. Okay, they've organized it by market cap and by trading, and essentially this is what they're presenting to you. It's not guaranteeing anything, but it's presenting a curated list for you. Back to research tools. Rating changes, and I think this is cool as well. If you trade in accordance to ratings from specific companies like Morningstar or Market Edge and so on, you can essentially look and see, hey, if this rating has changed and I want to maybe flesh out a specific strategy, you can go forward with that information and look at the report. Some people like to compare reports. They're generally created week to week. You can sort by upgrades or downgrades. Back to research. Everything you can do for stocks, you can essentially do it for ETFs, mutual funds, and in fact, they have a portfolio builder. So now you have to choose a specific account so that you can build a personalized portfolio. And now you can range from conservative to aggressive, so it allows you that flexibility to make sure that you're doing or building this portfolio appropriately. This is with mutual funds. You can do it with bonds, exchange traded funds, but essentially you are selecting how you want to build this portfolio. You state what you want, and it's letting you know, hey, this is ranging from conservative all the way to aggressive. Conservative meaning I want current income and stability and capital preservation. Aggressive meaning I'm concerned about growth and value, and I have a good tolerance for risk. Okay. So let's say aggressive, for example, then automatically it's giving me a sample risk profile. So then any investments that you select would fall into this risk profile, or it would allocate according to that risk profile. And then now it's going to ask you more about money and things like that. Suggested minimum is $5,000. So going forward, this information that it collects also will help Schwab in providing any targeted solutions or products toward your efforts or what you're looking to do and your objectives. So just be mindful of that. Options, research tools. Options strategy finder. I found this very, very interesting. First, as a disclosure, I read it already. And then now it's going to ask you some specific questions about what you're trying to do, what your strategy is. This is something that you want to take and do on your own time, and that way you can build the specific strategy according to your personal preferences. That is preparing you for a trade. So we have to navigate back to research, and we'll go to bonds, fixed income. It's presenting all that data. It gives me tools and resources here. Also plugs in some of the Schwab bond alerts, the Schwab managed portfolios, their knowledge center. So if you want to learn more about just bonds in general or fixed income, and then fixed income specialists, this is how you'd be able to contact them. Back again to research tools. Money market funds. So a money market fund is essentially, consider it a mutual fund that's invested in different income generating assets. So it could be T-bills, it could be commercial bonds. It runs the gamut basically. And it shows you how you can invest in them, what it's invested in, and how you can invest in them. So essentially, it's a mutual fund symbol that you'd purchase and you can buy. Some of them have a zero minimum investment amount. Some of them require you to provide $1 million in order to invest. Okay, so there is a range, but it's telling you the yield you would get if you were to invest in this money market fund. If it's more treasury based, then you have those available to you too. So if you wanted to research more than just what the Schwab money market funds are, then I would recommend using the mutual fund screener. And then from there, you would actually sift through. You would select what you're looking for. If it's going to be more focused on bonds, the risk, then performance. Distributions, not as much, but what you'll be looking for is more income-based mutual funds that are tied to more treasuries and other fixed income assets. And you would get a list of essentially money market mutual funds. Back to research. Go to our calendar. We already touched on that a little bit, but I do like how it just displays today's events. You don't have to jump around from site to site trying to figure all of this out. But you can go day to day and see what events are all lined up, whether it's economic news, whether it's earnings data, whether it's dividends, and so on. And then lastly is the watch list. And the watch list, what it essentially does is tie you back to the trade tab, which I explain in my breakdown on the trade tab in a separate video. So there you have it. That is a quick overview of the research page. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, I want you to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the page, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on future content. And until next time, stay present.